Welcome to Climb English. If you're here to learn English through stories that touch your heart, you're in the right place. Today's story is one of love, loss, and hope. It may bring tears, but it will also bring light. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with me till the end. My name is Sarah, and I come from a small town near Leeds, England. I was always a quiet and thoughtful girl, someone who found joy in simple things. A walk in the rain, the sound of birds in the morning, the smell of fresh bread from the local bakery. I lived with my mother and younger sister in a modest little house filled with laughter and warmth. Life wasn't perfect, but it felt peaceful. I believed that if you were kind and honest, the world would be kind back. At that time, I had no idea what was coming next. I met James at a friend's birthday party. He wasn't loud or flashy like the others. He stood quietly in the corner, sipping his drink and watching the room with kind eyes. When we finally spoke, it felt like I had known him forever. He was gentle, patient, and he listened with his whole heart. After a few months, we fell in love, slowly but deeply. He would walk me home after work, carry my shopping bags, and leave little notes in my coat pocket that said things like, "Your sunshine in human form." When he asked me to marry him, I didn't hesitate. I said yes with a heart full of dreams. I imagined a beautiful life, our own little home, maybe 2 children, laughter in every corner. Everything felt possible. It felt like I had stepped into a fairy tale. But fairy tales don't always stay sweet forever. From the day I became James's wife, everything changed. Not because of him, but because of his mother, Mrs. Evelyn Carter. She had sharp eyes and a voice that never softened. On the surface, she smiled in front of others, but behind closed doors, her words stung like bees. I greeted her each morning with a warm smile and respectful, "Good morning, Mum," but she would barely look at me. I tried so hard. I cooked her favorite meals, kept the house spotless, and always offered to help. I even wore the dresses she liked, spoke the way she preferred, and stayed quiet when she criticized me. But nothing was ever good enough. If dinner was a minute late, she called me lazy. If I laughed too loud, she said I had no manners. Her eyes watched me like I was an unwanted guest in her kingdom. And James, he loved me, but he didn't speak up. He said she would come around in time. So I waited. I waited with hope in my heart, even as I cried alone in the bathroom, wiping my tears before anyone could see. I just wanted to belong. I just wanted to be loved by the family I had chosen. A year into our marriage, I found out I was pregnant. I held the test in my hand, tears of joy falling down my cheeks. I ran to James, and he lifted me into his arms, spinning me around the room. We laughed, we cried. We were going to be parents. Every night I would lie on the bed with my hand on my belly, whispering to the tiny soul growing inside me. I imagined his little fingers, his soft giggle, the first time he would call me Mum. It was the happiest I had ever been. But in the 7th month, everything fell apart. One morning, I felt a sharp pain tear through my stomach. I screamed. James rushed me to the hospital. I held my belly the whole way, praying, begging, "Please, God, save my baby." The waiting room felt like it would swallow me whole. Then the doctor came out. His face told me everything before he even spoke. "I'm so sorry," he said. "The baby didn't survive." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. My whole world collapsed in a single moment. I had never even held him, but he had already lived in every corner of my heart. And just like that, he was gone. After I lost the baby, everything inside me went quiet. I stopped talking. I stopped smiling. The world outside kept moving, but mine had stopped. I would sit by the window for hours, staring at nothing, feeling everything. My body ached, but my heart ached more. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. The nights were the worst. I would lie in bed and cry silently, clutching the tiny clothes I had bought too early, hoping that somehow, if I loved hard enough, he might come back. Evelyn never knocked on my door. Instead, she stood in the hallway and whispered loudly, "She's cursed. She brought death into this house." Her voice sliced through the silence like a knife. I wanted someone, anyone, to tell me it wasn't my fault. But no one came, not even James. He stopped asking if I was okay. He would walk past me like I wasn't even there. And slowly, I began to believe I didn't matter anymore. One evening, as I sat on the edge of the bed folding clothes I no longer had the heart to wear, James walked in. His face looked colder than I had ever seen. He didn't sit beside me. He didn't ask how I was.
Instead, he said, "My mother thinks you've been seeing someone else. Is that why you won't get pregnant again?" I stared at him, stunned. The words didn't even make sense. I shook my head, but he didn't wait for an answer. "I want a divorce," he said. "Leave this house tonight." For a moment, I couldn't feel the floor under my feet. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I gathered my things with trembling hands. No one stopped me, not even James. I looked around the house where I had once dreamed of a future and realized I was just a shadow now. I walked out into the night, alone, carrying nothing but pain and silence. I found a tiny room to rent on the edge of town. The walls were thin, and the ceiling leaked when it rained, but it was quiet. And for the first time in months, the silence didn't feel cruel. It felt like rest. I got a job at a little bookstore tucked between two cafes on a quiet street. I spent my days organizing shelves and wrapping books for smiling customers. They would walk in, full of stories and laughter, while I stood behind the counter, barely holding myself together. At night, I would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if my life would always feel like an empty hallway. But something inside me refused to disappear. I still woke up. I still breathed. I still moved forward one small step at a time. And then, one slow afternoon, a man walked into the shop and changed everything without even knowing it. His name was Thomas. He came in looking for a birthday card. I greeted him with the usual polite smile, but he paused when he saw my face. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. I tried to nod, but instead my eyes filled with tears. He didn't press. He simply gave me a warm smile and quietly paid for his card. The next day, he came again. And then again. He never asked too many questions. He just talked about books, about music, about life. And slowly I found myself listening, then speaking, then laughing, just a little. He never tried to fix me. He didn't tell me to move on. He simply stayed. Sometimes we sat in silence, and even that silence felt safe. Over time, his presence became a kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. One afternoon, as the light poured through the bookstore window, he took my hand and said, "You don't have to be alone anymore." A year after Thomas and I became more than just friends, he asked me to marry him. I said yes through tears, not just because I loved him, but because for the first time I felt safe. 2 months after our wedding, I felt something different, something soft and familiar. I went to the doctor, holding my breath the entire time. When the nurse smiled and said, "You're pregnant," I broke down crying. But this time, they were tears of joy. Thomas held my hand through every moment, every appointment, every fear. I wasn't alone anymore. Not this time. Our son Noah was born on a rainy morning in April. The first time I held him, I whispered, "You're my second chance." Years passed, and Noah grew into a bright, kind boy with Thomas's calm smile. One afternoon, his school called for a parent meeting. I walked in holding Noah's hand and froze. Sitting across the desk was James. He stood slowly, his eyes locked on my son. "Is he your child?" he asked, voice shaking. I nodded. Noah smiled and said, "Nice to meet you, sir." James didn't speak, but his eyes said everything. Regret, realization, and silence. Today, I run a small community group for women like me, women who've been broken, blamed, and left behind, women who were told they were unlucky, useless, or cursed. I sit with them, listen to them, and remind them of what I learned, that pain is not the end of your story. You are not broken. You are becoming. I was once called barren, heartless, and weak, but now I am a mother. I am a guide. I am living proof that healing is real. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment. I read every single one. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, please let me know in the comments. I read every word, and your voice matters. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more English stories that not only teach language, but also speak to the soul. Until next time, take care.